She hadn't smiled in 6 years. That's what the caption said, pale letters fading in over a soft piano swell, framed by the sterile hum of a 30,000-foot cabin. The camera shakes just slightly, as if it's real, as if the moment wasn't staged. A young girl, expression flat, hands clenched, sits pressed against the window. And then the miracle. A flight attendant kneels beside her, says something we don't hear, places a small plastic pilot wing in the girl's palm. Her lip curls. Just barely. But it's enough. She smiles. The cabin claps. Someone cries. A stranger says, "We all witnessed something holy." And by nightfall, millions had watched. Millions believed. But weeks later, hidden beneath a forgotten Reddit AMA, a thread no longer searchable, now stored only in screenshot archives, the girl's mother appears. Quiet. Precise. Terrified. She claims she never authorized the upload. That she never met the woman in uniform. That the uniform itself didn't match what the airline was using that year. And strangest of all, that her daughter had already been smiling before the cameras rolled. Before the moment we were told to believe was a gift. It's not just this one. In dozens of miracle moment videos, the ones your friend shares at 2 a.m. with a crying emoji, something doesn't quite fit. A blind man given a guide dog by a stranger. A homeless teen hugged by a cop who turns out to be his estranged father. A deaf child hearing his mother's voice for the first time. All real enough to hurt. Real enough to cry. But just off enough to haunt. The man giving shoes at the train station? No one can confirm who he was, or if he ever worked at the station at all. The barista who sings to the deaf customer? Her apron has no name tag. The footage comes from a burner account that vanishes 2 weeks later. The teenager crying in the arms of an officer? There's a badge number on his chest, but it doesn't match any precinct. They follow a script. Every one of them. The slow setup. The unexpected moment of empathy. The tear. The twist. The applause. The fade to black. Every moment designed not to inform, but to affect. And it works. Because neurologically, humans are wired to reward emotional transformation. Seeing someone change, smile, cry, forgive, it triggers a reward loop so strong it bypasses rational defense. It's the reason you rewatch those scenes late at night, in the dark, telling yourself maybe the world isn't so cruel after all. But that's the danger. Because if a moment feels true enough, we stop asking if it's true at all. One researcher traced 7 of these viral kindness clips to a network of shell companies tied to private media agencies. Companies with no websites, no employee rosters, no presence outside of 3-minute miracle reels. Another YouTube sleuth found that in at least 5 of these stories, the person being helped disappears entirely after the video. No interviews, no follow-ups, no names attached to the image that moved millions. Then there's the girl. Not the one on the plane. A different girl. A different video. Same smile. Same camera angle. Same pilot wing. It wasn't just the moment that was repeated. It was the exact gesture, replicated, restaged, reused across content farms, each version slightly edited for a different language, a different audience, a different kind of heart. This isn't coincidence. It's architecture. Psychologists working with behavioral AI have a term for this: empathic priming. The deliberate use of emotionally weighted scenes to guide mood, perception, and decision-making, often used in marketing, sometimes used in war. But what if it's now being used in public? On you? On everyone? There's a theory, whispered, not proven, that some of these clips aren't just meant to manipulate, but to measure. That embedded in these moments are variables. Timing, lighting, phrasing, facial response. And that every viewer becomes data. A node. A test subject in an invisible experiment. Because if you wanted to see how long it takes to make someone cry, if you wanted to know what combination of innocence, trauma, and redemption could override doubt, if you wanted to pacify a population not through fear, but through the promise of small, perfect moments, this is how you do it. You wouldn't need soldiers. You wouldn't need surveillance. You'd only need a smile. A smile that wasn't supposed to happen. And a what if the stories that break your heart were designed to? Not by chance. Not by fate. but by a calibrated machine that knows exactly how much pain you can take and exactly when to lift it. A crying single mother gifted a car by a passing stranger. A boy bullied at school, only to be surprised by his classmates with a birthday party. A homeless man handed a job by a CEO who just happened to walk by. These are the moments that soften us, that remind us to believe, that go viral overnight. But behind the tears, there's a pattern. Behind the pattern, there's code. A post appeared 3 years ago on a throwaway account. Deleted within 12 hours. No screenshots. Only fragments left in replies. The poster claimed to be a former ad agency exec, someone who worked in the back rooms of brand storytelling. He said that touching moment videos were no longer just content. They were payloads. That word, payloads. Scripts written to deliver an emotional payload to a target audience, seeded by contractors for clients with non-commercial interests. The term he used was emotional payload testing. It sounded insane, until someone cross-referenced the IP blocks of several feel-good YouTube channels, all uploading nearly identical formats: soft music, handheld camera, acts of kindness, final twist. Nearly all were tied to the same shell company. A media firm registered in Delaware, no employee photos, no social footprint, no verified location. But funded, loosely, by a venture group whose other investments include facial sentiment AI and predictive behavior modeling. The stories are addictive. That's the point. They mimic the shape of trauma, but end in triumph. Poverty to compassion to twist to uplift. Again and again. A closed loop. Reddit users on /r/conspiracy call it hopewashing. One wrote, "Every time there's a spike in layoffs or a new surveillance bill, I swear one of these videos goes viral. It's like someone's resetting us." And maybe they are. In 2017, a quietly released FOIA request exposed a DARPA project, codename EmoteLink, active from 2009 to 2013. The documents, heavily redacted, describe civilian scenario exposure testing designed to measure biometric and behavioral shifts. The subjects weren't told they were part of a test. They were simply shown content, visual, narrative, emotional. The goal? To observe what it takes to move a person, to make them yield, to make them trust. We don't know what EmoteLink became. We don't know if it ended. But since then, emotional content has evolved. Sharper, cleaner, faster. Videos engineered not just to be watched, but to watch you back. Not just to move you, but to measure how you moved. Speculative analysts suggest these clips are strategically released before major shifts. Technological rollouts. Military funding votes. Surveillance expansions. Kindness floods the feed, one ex-researcher wrote, so no one notices the knife in the other hand. Because when you're crying, you're not asking questions. When you're grateful, you're not resisting. And when you're being conditioned to feel saved, again and again, you stop noticing that no one ever actually saved you. So what happens when the last real act of kindness is drowned beneath a million scripted ones? And who benefits from a world that feels full of hope, but is built on lies that make you weep? Ask ChatGPT camera that was already rolling. He was mid-sentence when he stopped speaking. The video freezes on his face, lips parted, eyes hollowed, a man who just saw a ghost. The stewardess stands motionless beside him, tray still in hand, her expression unreadable. And then, he whispers her name. Not hers. His wife's. Dead 20 years. The only thing that survives her is the ring. And there it is, on the stewardess's finger, unmistakable, antique, one of a kind. A camera somewhere catches the moment he breaks down, collapsing into her arms like a man pulled into another timeline. The title reads, "The Widow's Ring, a moment beyond words." And yet, everything about it feels written. Aviation sleuths were the first to catch it. The cabin layout in the background, the seating configuration, the placement of the safety lights, didn't match the jet model listed in the video's caption. They cross-referenced the tail number shown in a single blurred frame, and it turned up nothing. No charter record. No corresponding flight. No log. Just empty sky. Then came the manifest. Or rather, the absence of one. The woman in the video, the The stewardess with the ring wasn't listed as a crew member. Wasn't listed at all. That's when the pattern surfaced. On a subreddit buried in the archives, users began sharing other stories, almost identical. Different men, different flights, but always the same arc. A lost spouse, a matching item, a moment of stunned recognition, and always a breakdown on camera. In one, it's a woman given a bracelet by a stranger in a cafe. In another, a man sees a locket dangling from the mirror of an Uber. All contain the same elements: location, relic, emotional fracture, and a moment that defies explanation. But more disturbingly, they contain the same phrasing. It was like seeing her again. I forgot how to breathe. The world stopped. Coincidence is a powerful drug. And psychologically, when coincidence touches grief, it carves deep, bypassing logic, rooting itself inside the memory network like a seed that never rots. Trauma bonding through perceived fate is one of the most powerful tools in shaping long-term emotional recall. It creates flashbulb memories, permanently lit, uncritically trusted. And it's why these videos don't just go viral. They embed. But when deep frame analysts slowed the footage, something cracked. The stewardess, the one with the ring, looks directly into the camera. Not once. Not twice. 4 times. Microseconds each, almost imperceptible. But deliberate. Like she was waiting for a cue. Or hitting a mark. It's choreography disguised as collapse. Now imagine this wasn't a story. Imagine it was training data. AI doesn't learn from words. It learns from moments. From billions of human reactions. Eye dilation. Vocal tremors. Twitching muscles. That's what emotional intelligence looks like when it's fed to machines. And the most potent samples? Aren't acted scenes. They're engineered experiences. Events real enough to fool the brain, and fake enough to replay on demand. So ask yourself, how many of these so-called miracles are being used not to inspire, but to teach machines how to manufacture inspiration? Not to heal grief, but to simulate grief so convincingly it can be sold back to you? And who builds a future where coincidence becomes a button that someone else can press? The man in the video wasn't crying for the ring. He was crying for the ghost of something that never left and may never have existed at all. She's no older than 8. Wide eyes. Bare feet dangling from the seat. And then, in the middle of a luxury cabin soaked in silence, she turns to the billionaire beside her and says it, soft, flat, and deliberate. Someone is watching you. The man freezes. Moments later, he uncovers a hidden device, tucked under the seat, wired to transmit. Security swarms. The plane diverts. The media calls her a hero. A child's innocent warning. A miracle. But for 3 hours, an alternate version of the video circulated. One with closed captions. One with an extra line. It read, "They told me to say it now." By morning, the caption was gone. Scrubbed from every platform. Archived copies vanished from search indexes. Comment sections went dark. And when one Redditor posted the clip to /r/UFOs with that single question, "Who is they?" their account was deleted within the hour. That was the moment the engineers got involved. In a forgotten Discord server frequented by independent audio forensics hobbyists, the original file, scraped from an Icelandic media mirror, was analyzed frame by frame. What they found wasn't just glitch correction. It was surgical intervention. Metadata inconsistencies across 7 different edit timestamps, each linked to different OS signatures. One version encoded on a Mac. Another on Linux. One processed through a government-issued video software suite typically used by federal contractors. And then came the voice. It's nearly imperceptible. Just milliseconds before the girl speaks, there's a breath. A whisper layered beneath the cabin noise. A second voice. Older. Saying, "Now." That's when the questions shifted. Not just who is she, but what is she part of? One user traced the IP address of the first known upload. It routed, unbelievably, to a shell domain once registered to a DC-based research initiative listed under the name Emotive Narrative Labs. The lab shut down in 2016. Their work, according to leaked grant paperwork, focused on Nonverbal empathic triggering in public-facing AI environments. Translation? Teaching machines to read and manipulate emotion in real time. The final grant listed one chilling objective: verbal prompts delivered through disarming archetypes to test reaction to predictive cues. Children. Used as soft containers for hard programming. It echoes something darker. Something older. In the 1970s, buried within the MKUltra archives, Subproject 130 detailed prompted verbal expressions through youth participants designed to bypass adult psychological defenses. The records suggest the use of orphan children. No names. Just results. The project disappeared in 1983. Or so we were told. Now here we are. A billionaire. A girl. A whisper. And a world where media moves too fast to question. Emotional precision has become weaponized. Heroism engineered. We are told it's just a story. That she just knew. That children sometimes say strange things. But what if the strange thing isn't what she said, but who told her to say it? What if our instincts to trust the innocent are being rewired, to deliver messages, to shift narrative, to test you? Because when a child speaks, you don't challenge. You lean in. And someone is watching how you respond. It begins the way they always do. Quiet brilliance in an unexpected place. The boardroom is frozen. Executives, coders, security personnel all staring at a whiteboard where an unsolved cipher pulses in red digital ink. No one moves. No one speaks. Then a janitor walks in. Mop in one hand. Lunch in the other. He glances once at the board. Then again. He leans in. The air tightens. And without hesitation he mutters a sequence. Letters. Numbers. Silence. Then confirmation. The code cracks. The projection flickers. There's stunned laughter. The pause. Then applause. A phone camera captures it all. A man paid to clean floors just solved something their best minds couldn't. The CEO writes a check. 1 year's salary, just like that. A storybook moment. But that's where the story should have ended. Because when the company was contacted by news outlets, they gave a strange reply. We currently have no janitorial staff matching this description. The agency that provides contract cleaners denies sending anyone to that office on the reported day. No one can find an ID badge. No one remembers his name. And when investigators request the internal security footage, what they receive is corrupted. 30 seconds of missing data. Just before he exits. When the footage resumes, the hallway is empty. It gets worse. A forgotten version of the clip, uploaded briefly to archive.org before being pulled under copyright claims, contains something the viral edit doesn't. An extra 7 seconds. Long enough to show the man walking into a hallway, turning left, and disappearing behind a wall. Not a door. Not a hidden corridor. Just smooth drywall. Solid. Unbroken. The building's original blueprints, sourced through municipal records, confirm it. There's nothing there. There was never anything there. But this wasn't his first appearance. Twitter researchers and obsessive Redditors began tracing facial data using open-source recognition tools. One face, his face, appears in 4 unrelated viral kindness clips. In one, he hands a little girl her dropped backpack just before a car speeds past. In another, he gives his coat to a crying teenager during a bus breakdown. Another clip shows him sitting silently behind a grieving father during a hospital reunion, the only person not reacting. No one acknowledges him. He never speaks. Never stares into the lens. He's just there, always at the peak of emotional tension. The precise moment when a video turns from pain to healing. Wendigoon calls it the horror behind the warmth. When you stare at something beautiful long enough to realize it has no reflection. There's a name some researchers have begun using, a test node. An emotional ghost inserted into narrative architecture to trigger and measure biometric responses. Maybe he's not a man. Maybe he's a program. A symbolic variable used to assess how we process hope. Each appearance calibrated to make us feel a specific emotion, share a specific type of story, react in a specific emotional key. The applause isn't for him. It's for what he represents. Anonymous goodness, order emerging from chaos, proof that there's meaning in coincidence. But what if that meaning is synthetic? Some believe these emotional set pieces are part of a larger experiment, not in manipulation, but mapping. Emotional obedience as data. Moments designed to push us just far enough toward unity, trust, and softened perception before a shift, a rollout, a breach. Because a population conditioned to cry on cue won't notice when the story changes. There's one final frame in the original video, caught only when slowed to 1/1000 second playback. A flicker across the screen's upper corner. For lines of code. One string of numbers. One phrase, iteration 113, response pattern, ideal. Test archived. You didn't feel what you felt by accident. Every tear. Every share. Every time you whispered, "That's beautiful," in the middle of the night, it was logged. Assessed. Maybe not by humans. Maybe not anymore. The janitor wasn't there to fix a code. He was the code. Because if you can be moved, you can be modified. And if you can be modified, someone is already doing it. Quietly. Repeatedly. Without your consent. Not all ghosts are from the past. Some are engineered for your feed. And maybe the most dangerous stories are the ones that ask nothing of you except to believe.